My grandmother has prepared me for this day since 2018 when she shared with us the songs she wanted on the playlist to be played at her wake. I would say she might have been preparing me for this day since 1986 when Mommy died, and she had me help me write a note to put in the coffin. Or when she had to deal with an angsty teenage version of me that didn't want to face a dying father, and she made me say my goodbyes. Or in 2002 when I was applying for college, and she set me down to help her write her will. Because she knew the sad truth that one day, this day would come, whether we wanted to or not. I think she knew more than most of us from her over 30 years at the geriatric center, and then the few years at a psychiatric hospital, which I'm sure is why she did so well with kids. So I had a few openings in the planning of this event because she planned every part of it. For those who were at the wake yesterday, she chose every one of those songs. She chose her outfit, she chose her wig, her makeup, the color of her nails, and the jewelry she would wear. And so now I've got a chance to say something that she didn't plan. You all have good working eyes, you can read the obituary. My grandmother prepared and wrote that herself as well. So I thought I'd take this time to tell the story of my grandmother, or the airing of her grievances, or sharing the many lessons of Velma Louise Johnson. Mother. Why did you let me call you Mother for all these years? It was confusing to have to tell people how Mother was my grandmother, and that Granny was my great-grandmother, and there was also Mommy, but that's already confusing with Mommy and Mother. But it was her daughter who called her Mother, and so thus that stuck with me, and that's what I called her my whole life. And my grandmother had what she called the mystic cross on her hand. It was this thing that she had heard that she believed was something that allowed people to see things before they happened, or know about them before they happened. And she even told me how she went to a psychic, and this psychic had told her that, before I was born, by the way, that a boy child would enter into her life, and she would take on a motherly role with him. And I assume and then she assumed the role of grandmother in my life, which we'll come back to. The lesson: family is not always who you share blood with, but who you let in your life and your heart fully. I think this is summed up by Paul in the first letter to Corinthians: if you have the gift of prophecy, knowledge, and faith, but you don't have love, you are nothing. Now, back to the grandmother role. Do you realize that she learned how to video chat so that she could talk to Sophia? This woman who claimed she couldn't use a computer, but often did, claimed she didn't like dogs, but loved to have them in the house, learned how to use the Google Home so that she can have conversations with Sophia. And decades she watched children in her house. She shared with all of them. You heard from Brittany earlier today. And I cannot separate the idea of her from the sound of children. They're all adults now. Mother told me I need to be more firm with Sophia. And moments later, looked at Sophia as she opened the cabinet of the island, pulled out a cheese grater and a pot lid, and started banging them together, walking around the kitchen. And my grandmother's response was, hold on a second, let's just see what happens. And she encouraged it, like bang, the noise, the clatter, the things that I definitely couldn't have gotten away with myself. And if I am to spoil this child, it's because this is how you taught me how to raise children. And then for those that were there long enough, they got to sit in the side as she smiled and would whisper, just wait a moment, let's see where this goes. And I think of that moment and the joy she had watching children just be children. And I would say the lesson here is a child's joy is pure joy. A child's joy is pure. And mother, why do I have such strong memories of visiting nursing homes and geriatric centers with you? I know why. It's because you would bring me and all the other kids with you that were there those days to the geriatric center, and even when Granny was in the nursing home, you'd bring us, and it wasn't just Granny she'd go to see. It would be everybody in the nursing home, because her mother was just as vivacious as she was. So she knew everyone, and then my grandmother knew everyone plus everyone else. And we would sit there for hours talking to all of them. And then she would talk about what it was like being a nurse, telling the stories of sterilizing needles and cleaning bedpans and changing sheets to beds, and in retirement would go back and still see patients and former co-workers and the places she used to work. And while the math never added up, for about 15 years, she was 39 years old, until my sister said, "No, Mother, you were 39 last year, you're 40. I guess the lesson here is just always remember the people you meet along the way. Then there was church. Many of you know how much Trinity Episcopal Church and later in life St. Anne's Episcopal Church meant to her. Her eulogy talks about that, her obituary talks about that, the many positions she held. Now, what you may not know is that there was a time right before my confirmation where she had me at church probably 7 days a week, or in a church 7 days a week. It was, and I might have the days wrong, but it was Monday was confirmation class, Tuesday was piano lessons, Wednesday was vestry, Thursday was choir lessons, Friday I was at St. James Church for Boy Scouts, and I think that still counts because it was a church. And Saturday, prepping for Sunday's coffee hour, then Sunday was just church. Mother had one website open on her laptop at all times when she moved down to Delaware, and it was St. Anne's Church, so that she could watch the survey 10:30 every morning, every Sunday morning. And I think the lesson here is summed up with Matthew's gospel when he says, if you have faith like a grain of mustard seed, you can say to the mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. There's a sound that I think I will never forget. It's similar to the effect of getting called to the principal's office at school, and the result is about the same. Everyone would stop, my tail would tuck between my legs, and my friends would go, ooh. The tone was something that only she could do, and maybe Max can help me out with this one, because or Kelsey. I'm sure you know this one, if you could. Tommy! And it was saved for when I needed it, and only when it was needed. It wasn't just a disciplined tone, it was also I won't stand for this tone. And you couldn't get away with anything with her. I remember a time when, I don't know why, but I lied to her where I went to after a Boy Scout meeting. I had the van, I'd gone to the church for Scouts, then afterwards I stopped at CVS with a friend, and we didn't do anything bad, we just wasted time. I got home late because of this pit stop, and I lied about why I was late. That was not smart. She let me lie, listened, looked at me, even leaned in slightly, and allowed me to continue. Adding to this, like, oh, really, and what else? And, then calmly told me she had already gotten a call from somebody that saw me at CVS. Then asked again, why was I late? It was a firmness in her conviction that she would use when, as she tells it, she would stand up to her superiors at work or later in life tell her doctors what medicine she wasn't going to take. The lesson here, again from Paul's letter to the Corinthians, my dear friends, stand firm and do not be shaken. There's a way about how my grandmother would operate that was so uniquely her. She would just talk to people, and every once in a while, it'd be someone interesting. At my high school graduation, she found herself sitting next to Ozzie Davis and Ruby Dee. On a cruise to Alaska, Boys to Men was on this cruise, and she decided to walk right up to them and say, everyone seems to know who you are. Who are you? And then she'd recruit them to do something. I'm sure all of us here have been recruited to do something for her, whether it was from the African American Heritage Day Parade, her old bowling league, a cooking project, a church thing, or just stuff around the house, moving furniture, hanging curtains, taking down curtains, changing something, helping her bring laundry down. Whatever it was, you were recruited because she did not have a fear in asking. And the lesson straight from Mark: ask and it will be given to you, seek and you will find, knock and it will be open for you. Of the many people who have called, reached out, showed up, and to pay their respects and send their condolences, one person said to me, "Velma said it." And we just laughed, because my grandmother would just say it. My grandmother always had the right thing to say when you needed to hear it. When her daughter Dorothy died, through her own grief, she managed to talk to me about how Mommy was going to be an angel. And when I first learned the biological differences between boys and girls, she set me down with a copy of Gray's Anatomy and went through the differences with careful instructions that not everyone knows this yet, so keep the information to yourself until the right time. And when I went through my first breakup, she told me stories of the suitors who've come and gone in her life. And when I brought Amy home for Christmas, she asked me when I was going to marry her. And when that patch of gray hairs became a solid patch, she said, "Wait till you start having gray pubes." She always put life into perspective. Mother was the hardest person to shop for around Christmas. She didn't want for much, and when she did, her fierce independence, she got it herself. One year, my father asked her what she wanted, and sarcastically she said, "A bikini, a fur coat, and a diamond tennis bracelet." My father, who enjoyed a good laugh, got it for her. She never wore them, but they were something she treasured when telling the stories of him. She told me there was nothing she wouldn't tell me when I was ready to hear it, and she did. Hard conversations, honest truths, were easy for her. In the planning of this day, every one of us knew where her will was, power of attorney, living will, her outfit that she had chosen, the jewelry, the wig, the makeup, the order of service, the music for the wake. So I hope you guys were all listening, because there's messages in there for you. We're all prepared, and she made sure to show us where they all were every time we visited the last few years. Even from beyond, she was a constant caretaker. So how do you sum up a life? Such a full life. I think I'll do that the way I do something with my daughter. We make these little videos where every day we talk about how today is day 1059, and then tell the lesson about something we've learned or something we've done that was interesting. So, Mother, you've gone home to be with your daughter, my father, your ancient brothers, her words, and those who went before you. Day 31,980. In your wake is exactly what you taught us to find in life: love and laughter. And I'm sorry I never got to see you in that bikini.